Welcome to another Amazing Stories Unwrapped. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to waste my time doing things that aren't important, looking for things that I really don't need to find. If I'm not working on the most important things in life or trying to discover the most important things that I need to know, I'm just wasting my time. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm fishing for the wrong fish in the wrong fishing hole. So what are you doing with your time? What are you fishing for today? What are you looking for? Or to put it another way, what kind of a fish do you hope to catch today? Speaking of fish, I want to share a great fishing story. Maybe it wouldn't be true. If it weren't true, I don't think you'd believe it. I call it history's craziest fishing story. Every morning, the old man would shuffle out to the back door. Before he did, he would tell the cook to keep the frying pan hot because tonight he was going to bring that elusive fish home for supper. All day, the old man would sit on the same battered old lawn chair, under the same hot Florida sun, at the same fishing hole, holding the same rod, dangling the same hook into the same water. Day after day, month after month, year after year, he waited for that fish to bite, but it never did. Now, occasionally, visitors would come from Chicago or New York to pay homage to the old man at the fishing hole. And they tried to mask their dismay when they saw him. They were shocked, though he was only in his late 40s. He looked old beyond his years. His brain was eaten away by syphilis. His face was scarred from earlier wars. His body had been ravaged by prison. For a brief moment, his eyes would flicker in faint remembrance. He might respond with some incoherent grunts or groans, but always his glassy eyes would return to that hook in the water. After a few moments of awkward silence, the guests would sadly slip away, because there was a time when Big Al, old Alphonse, was the most notorious gangster in America, ruled a crime syndicate that was bigger than the federal government. He was called public enemy number one. His detractors called him Scarface. His victims called him Sir. His stable of slick lawyers bribed public officials to keep him out of prison for years. No mobster ever had a run like Scarface Al Capone. But even the boss of all bosses can't mess with the Internal Revenue Service. At age 33 years of age, Big Al was sent up the river for tax evasion. Now, when he bribed officials at the federal penitentiary to turn his cell into the Ritz-Carlton, he was carted off to the new maximum security prison at a place called Alcatraz. There he discovered the true meaning of hard time. Well, after several years on the rock, he was released for good behavior. Truth is, he was broken in spirit. He was addled by syphilis. He spent most of his last years in the prison hospital. The syndicate had moved on without him, so the feds figured that Big Al Capone was no longer any threat to society. So old Scarface spent his last days in a mansion in Miami, fishing for that elusive fish in a fishing hole that was really a pool full of chlorinated water. No fish. You'd have to say this for addled Al. He was a persistent fisherman to the end. He died in 1947, age 48, still hoping to catch that elusive fish that he would never catch. Now, you might think it's crazy for Big Al Capone, Alphonse, Scarface, Al Capone, the great mobster, to be so crazy that he'd be fishing for fish in a swimming pool at his house. But I think there's something crazier than that. That's people who fish every day for a fish they can never catch. some elusive fish that they think will change their life. Every day they shuffle out to the same old fishing holes, put the same old hook in the same old water under the same sun, and they expect something different to happen. As someone once said, the great definition of crazy is to keep doing the same thing day after day and expect a different result. To keep fishing for the same fish, that fish that you've never caught. So what are you fishing for today? I believe this. When most people go fishing, it's really not the fish they're after. It's something else. What are you after? What are you fishing for? What I want to say to you today, and say to myself, is we don't want to be like Al Capone. We don't want to be fishing for a fish we can never catch. I believe there's something we all need and want. That's the thing we're trying to catch. It was St. Augustine who said this: God has made us for himself, and we will be restless until we find our rest in him. It was the 16th or 17th century mathematician, philosopher, the Frenchman Blaise Pascal, who said this: within every one of us, there's a God-shaped vacuum. God has created us for himself. He's created us with him in us. We're created in his image. That means he has created us, as Augustine said, for himself. When we long for God, that God-shaped vacuum. But the problem is, if it's a God-shaped vacuum, it's as big as God. And God, by definition, is infinite. That means that thing within us, that emptiness within us, is as big as God. But what we try to do is we try to fill it with the things of creation. And the things of creation, whether it's money, power, affirmation, whether it's adulation, whatever it is we try to fill that hole with, we can't fill it because all those things are finite. And that infinite hole, which is like, well, Pascal says, which is bigger than God, or as big as God, nothing's bigger than God, but as big as God, that hole will just suck away like a black hole in outer space sucks away planetary systems. It'll just suck it away and we'll be left empty again. I've known some of the greatest stars in Hollywood. I remember one time being with several stars. I mean, you'd be shocked if you knew their names. The biggest stars in Hollywood, at a place in Acapulco. I was sharing with these people. And I remember the emptiness, the profound emptiness. One of them had been a megastar at one time. He was now overweight. He was wearing a headpiece because he had grown bald. He was the trophy guest of rich people who wanted to play off of his former fame. And he looked at me and he said, I had it all, and it never satisfied me. Now I'm empty. So don't be like Al Capone, going out to a swimming pool, putting a hook in water, thinking you're going to catch a fish that isn't there. Look for the thing that really matters. Jesus said, what should it profit a man should he gain the whole world and lose his soul? And what is your soul? It is that inner part of you that was made for God, that was created by God, that longs for God. So I think if you seek God today, try to know him better. Get into the Bible and learn about him. Spend some time just walking in his nature and reflect on who he is. Try talking to him. You don't have to have some kind of crazy theological prayer. Just talk to him like you would a friend. And he'll begin to talk to you. And I believe this, that Jesus is the best way to get to God. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So I want to get to know Jesus. Jesus was God in the flesh. And so I don't know what you're fishing for today, but I hope that you will go fishing for the thing you really need and want more than anything else. Time is short. Oh, speaking of time, next week we'll go back to a schedule of just one of these amazing stories unwrapped. It'll be this time every week, Thursday at 10 minutes to 1 East Coast time in the United States. But we have a special feature that'll be starting the week after this week. So be on the lookout for it. It's called God Chats, a 1-minute moment of wisdom. We'll be telling you more about where to find it, but just know this, every day I'll be coming to you for 1 minute. 1 minute of power-packed, supercharged devotion just to get you going, to charge your batteries. It'll only take you a minute. Actually, I have time, then they're about 56 seconds long. And so I think they'll be great for you. I love you. I hope you have a great weekend upcoming, and I look forward to seeing you a week from now on Thursday, 12:50 East Coast time, United States, and the week after every day for 1 minute on our God Chats. Have a great day. God bless.